little Spider-Man boy, full of joy and energy, was the heart of his foster family. But no one could have known that, in just a few short minutes, he would vanish forever.
It's been 10 years since 3-year-old William Tyrrell went missing from his foster grandmother's house on the New South Wales north coast. Now, in a short few weeks, a long-stalled coronial inquest will reopen, and it's crunch time for New South Wales police, who for the past 4 years have been implicating William's foster mother, alleging she had something to do with his disappearance. Tonight, senior investigators take us through the case for and against her.
Well, I have my 2 younger boys, but yeah, they're not meant to be there to look after me. I don't know. I just made bad choices and I wasn't ready, I guess, to have my daughter. But yeah, then I wanted to do everything I could to, be the best mum I could be. So I did everything and I'm still trying to do everything I can. But I don't know what else to do.
William's foster mother maintains she had nothing to do with his disappearance and asked the police to continue to looking for William and what happened to him.
Both sides of the parents, biological and foster, have their own compelling arguments, yet we have nothing to say about what happened to the boy. Hangs in the air. Is that truly an explanation any parent should give for their child's death? That lingering ambiguity defines the heartbreaking limbo of William Tyrrell's disappearance. On the sunny morning of September 12, 2014, in the quiet coastal town of Kendall, New South Wales, Australia, a 3-year-old vanished from his foster grandmother's backyard in minutes. No screams, no struggle, no trace of his bright Spider-Man suit. Why the eerie silence? How could a child evaporate under watchful eyes? Was it a tragic accident hidden away, a stranger's abduction, or something even darker in the child care system? This is the case of William Tyrrell. The disappearance. In the gritty suburbs of Newcastle, New South Wales, William Tyrrell entered the world on June 26, 2011. As the third child of a family already fractured by hardship, his biological parents, names shielded by court orders to protect the children's identities, scraped by in a low-income neighborhood plagued by cycles of poverty. From the start, their household was marked by chronic addiction, with both parents struggling with controlled substances that spilled into domestic violence and neglect. Reports later detailed scenes of chaos, empty fridges, unsupervised toddlers wandering, and bruises that raised alarms among neighbors and social workers. William's older siblings had already shown signs of the same neglect, malnutrition, developmental delays, and frequent absences from school. Right after his birth, hospital staff noticed the red flags: the newborn was underweight, withdrawn, and showed early indicators of fetal exposure to substances. Doctors admitted him immediately for monitoring, while Child Protection Services flagged the family for intervention. This wasn't an isolated incident. The 2 older kids had cycled through similar hospital visits in prior years, their small bodies bearing the quiet evidence of a home where survival trumped care. By 2012, the cracks in the biological family's foundation had widened into a chasm that the New South Wales courts could no longer ignore. A series of reports from teachers, doctors, and relatives painted a damning picture of prolonged mistreatment and abandonment. Children left alone for days, exposed to parental fights that turned physical, and a revolving door of temporary caregivers who couldn't stem the tide. In a decisive hearing, the family court stripped the parents of custody over all 3 children, citing irrefutable evidence of endangerment. William, barely 1 year old, was uprooted alongside his siblings and placed into the state's foster care system, a network of temporary homes designed as a safety net but often stretched thin. The biological parents retained limited visitation rights, supervised meetings every few weeks, but compliance was spotty. They missed appointments, arrived intoxicated on occasion, or simply failed to show, fueling frustration on both sides. This sparked the first open conflict. The parents vehemently denied the allegations in court filings and media leaks, insisting the system was biased against working class families like theirs. They argued that poverty, not malice, was the root issue, and accused authorities of cultural snobbery, targeting them because they didn't fit the mold of polished, middle-class stability. Relatives echoed this, claiming the kids belonged with blood kin, no matter the flaws. The turning point came in 2013 when William, now 2 years old and beginning to form his first clear memories, was permanently assigned to a foster family in a rural area outside Sydney. The couple, referred to in legal documents only as J and T to safeguard privacy, represented a stark contrast: middle-class professionals with a steady jobs and experience fostering an older girl who had already settled in with them. Initial assessments praised their setup: fenced yard for play, structured routines, and emotional warmth that helped William transition. He started calling them mom and dad, bonding quickly through daily rituals like bedtime stories and weekend outings. The older foster sister became his playmate, sharing toys and secrets in a way that mimicked sibling normalcy. Yet beneath this veneer of stability, tensions simmered with the biological side. The birth parents formally opposed the placement in appeals, arguing that uprooting the children from potential blood relatives violated family unity principles. As visitation rights dwindled further, reduced to rare, heavily monitored sessions due to missed obligations, the rift deepened. The fosters viewed it as protection. The biological parents saw it as erasure, whispering to anyone who would listen that the system favored wealth and appearance over heritage. Heading into early 2014, William's life with the foster family appeared settled on the surface. The energetic toddler thrived in their rural haven, chasing chickens in the yard, building forts with his sister, and developing a love for outdoor adventures that lit up his face. Weekends often meant road trips north to visit the foster grandmother, the biological sister of the foster mother, who lived in the sleepy coastal town of Kendall, a 350-kilometer drive from Sydney through winding highways and eucalyptus-lined roads. These visits were routine family bonding: barbecues on the deck, games in the overgrown backyard, and the kind of relaxed rhythm that fostered grandparents provide. No major red flags surfaced in official records from this period, no calls to child services, no visible bruises or complaints from the kids. But hindsight would later uncover subtleties. The foster parents enforced strict discipline with the children under their care, including the older ones from previous placements. Accounts from those other kids described a home where rules were ironclad, timeouts that stretched long, raised voices during corrections, and an emphasis on obedience that bordered on rigidity. On the morning of September 12, 2014, at 48 Benaroon Drive in Kendall, New South Wales, the foster family pulled up sometime between 7 and 8 after driving in from Sydney either late the night before or at dawn. The foster parents helped 3-year-old William and his 8 or 9-year-old foster sister out of the car. The foster grandmother, Jay's biological sister, a widow living alone in the single-story weatherboard house, greeted them at the door with hugs and coffee. The backyard stretched wide behind the home, a raised timber deck about 3 feet off the ground, dense scrub, and bushes spilling down the slope, everything visible through the kitchen's sliding glass doors. Breakfast followed soon after: eggs, toast, and fruit juice. William ate heartily, laughing and chatting without any signs of illness or irritability, appearing his usual energetic self. By around 9:30 to 10 a.m., the kids headed out to the backyard for playtime. William and his foster sister engaged in games of hide-and-seek and animal pretend play. William dashed around the deck and bushes, roaring like a lion before switching to meowing like a cat. Inside, the foster mother sat at the kitchen table on a phone call with her own mother, the details of which later showed some minor inconsistencies in statements about the foster grandmother's exact location, possibly in another room. The foster father stepped outside to smoke or check the car in the front driveway. We've noted from family accounts that the first odd behavior emerged here. The foster sister later recalled William suddenly going silent about 5 minutes before he vanished, though she didn't pay much attention, absorbed in her own play near a separate cluster of bushes. No unusual sounds reached anyone, no strange cars, unfamiliar people, or wildlife noises. The weather was sunny and clear, offering unobstructed visibility from the kitchen to the entire backyard. At precisely 10:04 to 10:06 a.m., the pivotal moment unfolded. The foster mother heard William's final pretend meow from a bush about 5 to 10 meters from the deck. She chuckled and mentioned over the phone, "William's pretending to be a cat right now." Glancing out the glass door, she spotted the foster sister playing nearby, but saw no sign of William, even though he'd been circling the area just seconds earlier. One striking anomaly stood out: no cries for help, no signs of struggle, no broken branches, no disturbed footprints on the soft ground. His bright red and blue Spider-Man suit, a full-body outfit with a hood, should have been easy to spot, yet it disappeared entirely along with him. The foster mother ended the call, which had lasted about 20 minutes, a recording of which sparked later debates over exact timing, and rushed outside, calling "William" repeatedly. From 10:06 to 10:15 a.m., the initial reaction kicked in with the foster mother and sister. The foster mother circled the backyard, peering into bushes, under the deck, and along the front driveway, her calls growing more frantic. The foster sister trailed behind, insisting he was just here, but couldn't pinpoint his last exact spot. She started crying, repeating, "Where's William?" Another peculiar detail emerged in later reflections. The foster mother admitted to an eerie feeling. Due to the complete lack of traces, no dropped toys, no scattered hood, no odd smells or sounds lingering in the air, by 10:15 to 10:30 a.m., the foster father and grandmother joined the manual search. Hearing the shouts from the front, the foster father hurried to the backyard and swept the nearby areas with the mother dense undergrowth, fences, and beneath the house, which had no basement. The grandmother emerged to assist, checking bedrooms and the garage before phoning the closest neighbors, about 100 to 200 meters away on a landline. A notable oddity came from the foster father's description of a dead silence. No birds chirping, no unexpected traffic. He inspected the family car but found no indications of anyone approaching. The group split up. Foster mother stayed in the backyard, foster father headed to the main road, and grandmother reached out to more relatives. From 10:30 to 10:55 a.m., the search expanded through the neighborhood. The family jogged around the block, knocking on doors of 5 or 6 nearby homes, asking if anyone had seen a boy in a Spider-Man suit. All responses were negative. The foster sister was brought inside to calm down, where she kept repeating, "He was playing cat, and then he was gone." The final strange element surfaced when the foster mother returned to the last mew spot. No child-sized footprints led out from the bush toward the woods or road, despite the brief 1 to 2 minute gap, and initial search radius of just 50 meters remaining empty. The family regrouped on the front lawn, exchanging a brief debate. The foster father pushed to keep looking, while the mother insisted, "We have to call someone," leading to the morning's closing decision. The dark side of the police. To discuss the issues in this case, beyond the strange points from family members, we cannot overlook the massive problems with the police force that greatly impacted the search and investigation efforts. The first police car rolled up to 48 Benaroon Drive in Kendall at 11:06 a.m. on September 12, 2014, just 10 minutes after the emergency call at 10:05 a.m. The initial team consisted of 4 or 5 officers from the Port Macquarie station, about 30 kilometers away. Right away, they treated it as a high-risk child abduction case, based on the absence of any physical traces like blood, clothing, or signs of a struggle, combined with a brief 5 to 10 minute window. They ruled out the boy wandering off since he knew the backyard terrain well, and wild animals weren't a factor in that residential area. Their immediate actions included sealing off the backyard and the front road, conducting preliminary interviews with the family where the foster mother detailed the last meow sound and manually inspecting the scene. However, a key opportunity slipped by when they didn't launch a full forensic sweep of the bushes or wooden deck right then, sparking later potential evidence getting contaminated or erased. Local residents quickly criticized the response as too slow in those first hours, especially since neighbors had already started searching on their own without any guidance from the officers. By 11:30 a.m., that same day the search expanded into a large-scale operation as Strike Force Rosen was formed at noon, led by Detective Gary Jubelin, a Sydney-based expert in missing children cases. They mobilized over 100 officers, deployed sniffer dogs using scents from the boys' toys, brought in helicopters for aerial scans, and sent divers into the nearby Gloucester River. The effort covered 20 square kilometers of dense forest, waterways, and highways, including checking a white van reported near the scene, whose owner provided an alibi within 2 hours. Police stuck to the theory of abduction by a stranger, prioritizing checks on local CCTV cameras, which turned out non-existent, and street witnesses. They announced a 50,000 AUD reward at 2 p.m. for information leading to finding the boy alive. One early issue cropped up with the lack of coordination with NSW Child Services, as they chose to withhold that he was in foster care to protect identities, missing a chance to go public sooner and potentially draw tips from the foster community. From September 13 through the end of the month, the search pressed on relentlessly with hundreds of volunteers combing nearby homes and parking lots. They found child-sized footprints near the river, but lab tests in Sydney on September 20 showed no DNA match. Officers questioned over 50 local witnesses and cleared out reports of suspicious vehicles. The police view remained firmly on abduction, with Jubelin stating publicly in a September 15 press conference that the boy had been taken by a child predator. Problems arose from delaying the analysis of the foster mother's phone call recording until September 25, which fueled arguments over the exact timeline. Media like the Daily Telegraph slammed the scene as chaotic, pointing out a missed opportunity in not thoroughly searching the garage or family car on day one. Moving into October 2014 and through 2015, the investigation went national, extending to airports, seaports, and borders, with Interpol involved for human trafficking angles. The reward bumped up to 100,000 AUD in December 2014. Jubelin oversaw more than 200 officers and set up monthly William Days for focused efforts. Police believed the case was solvable with more tips, shifting some attention to local pedophile networks. Issues included wasting resources on false leads, like toys found in January 2015 that went nowhere. Experts like former Detective Clint Townsend criticized the over-reliance on Jubelin's direction, highlighting a missed chance to dig deeper into regional criminal records earlier. In 2016 and 2017, things shifted when police publicly revealed in June 2017 that the boy was in foster care, following court pressure, which brought in over 500 new tips, though most proved useless. Their stance stayed on abduction but acknowledged possible internal factors without specifics. Jubelin openly critiqued initial errors like slow scene lockdowns in a November 2017 radio interview. Problems mounted with a temporary suspension of an officer for leaking info. Major criticism came from outlets like ABC in March 2018 over hiding the foster status, which delayed leads, and a missed opportunity in not contacting the birth parents sooner to explore connections. By 2018 and into 2019, leadership changed when Jubelin got sacked in March 2019 for illegally recording interviews unrelated to the case. A new team took over under fresh detectives, tweaking the view toward possible death in the disappearance while still prioritizing abduction. The inquest kicked off in June 2019 under Magistrate Teresa Truss, hearing from over 100 witnesses. Delays stemmed from disputes over Jubelin's recordings, and he criticized the lack of initial resources in a 2019 radio spot. Overall missed opportunities included not using drones for early scene scans, tech that was available then, leading to weather-erased traces, and police admitted in 2019 that faster action in the first 48 hours might have cracked it. We turn now to those who faced the heaviest scrutiny. Starting with Gary Jubelin, the lead on strike force rose on from 2014 to 2019. His main downfall came from those illegal recordings of Threeves with neighbor Paul Savage between 2017 and 2018, breaking NSW laws and leading to his March 2019 dismissal. That sparked lawsuits, and he won $1.48 million AUD in compensation in 2022 for wrongful prosecution. Beyond that, accusations flew that he fixated too much on the abduction theory, ignoring other paths early on. The inquest in 2020 highlighted his delay in analyzing the foster mother's call recording back to September 20, 2014. Sources of backlash in the NSW Police Commissioner Mick Fuller in 2019, who deemed his actions unacceptable, and inquest magistrate Harriet Graham in 2021, who faulted the lack of oversight under him. Media like ABC in 2019 branded him a fallen hero. Jubelin defended himself in his 2020 book, admitting the recording mistake but blasting superiors for skimping on resources and politicizing the case. Even years later in 2024 interviews, he urged keeping an open mind on who might be responsible, reflecting on how the probe inherited issues from the start. In a 2025 discussion, he pointed out lessons for other cases, like how South Australian police were exploring alternatives in a similar disappearance, drawing from what went awry here. Next up, the NSW police leadership drew organizational fire from Commissioner Andrew Sippian in 2014, followed by Mick Fuller from 2017 onward. They got hit for not allocating enough officers on day one, deploying only 100 when 200 were recommended. The decision to conceal the foster care detail until 2017 slowed down hundreds of potential tips. Sippian faced accusations in 2015 from the media of prioritizing other incidents, like the Lint cave siege that year. Fuller caught heat in the 2019 inquest for rushing Jubelin's firing without a strong replacement. A 2018 ombudsman report slammed the poor coordination with child services. Former Detective Clint Townsend in a 2020 interview called the leadership too conservative, missing out on drones and tech. In recent 2024 reflections, discussions highlighted how initial resource shortages set a problematic tone, with Jubelin in 2025 interviews noting how those early decisions echoed in ongoing critiques. The lower-rank officers and initial Port Macquarie team also took hits for on-the-ground execution. They were blamed for the slow scene lockdown, letting neighbors roam freely in the first hours, and skipping immediate forensic scans of the bushes on September 12, 2014. One unnamed officer got temporarily fired in 2016 for info leaks. The 2019 inquest heard testimony about inadequate training for child missing cases. Jubelin in his 2020 book faulted the local team's inexperience, and 2015 reports described volunteer chaos due to poor control by officers. Even in 2024 podcasts and videos examining what went wrong, these frontline lapses got dissected as foundational flaws that compounded over time. The parents. Getting back to the core of the case, what really caused Tyrrell to disappear? Unfortunately, a lot of evidence has proven that the foster parents are directly involved in the case. The people directly involved in the case also have similar opinions. However, the shocking twist is that they are completely acquitted after all. What happened? Toward the end of 2019, the inquest under Magistrate Teresa Truss, who later handed off to Harriet Graham, started taking statements from the foster parents. That's when police first laid out their internal theory. William Tyrrell died from an accidental fall off the wooden deck in the backyard at the foster grandmother's house, and William got hidden to avoid losing custody of other kids. This shift came after years of focusing elsewhere. But now the spotlight turned inward. The suspicion stemmed from their history of strict discipline with children in the home, pulled from NSU Child Services records, plus some slight inconsistencies in their accounts of the timeline, like the foster mother's phone call during the disappearance. Police figured they panicked over the risk of getting stripped of foster rights if an accident came to light, especially since they had other children in care. Supporting this were forensic checks on the deck showing old scratches that matched a 3-year-old's height from an internal report in December 2019, and the total lack of external abduction signs, which backed the internal accident idea. But pushback hit hard. The foster parents denied it flat out during the inquest, labeling the theory baseless without any blood or DNA at the scene. Even Gary Jubelin, the former lead investigator, went public in 2020 slamming the suspicion as premature without solid physical proof, arguing it jumped too far ahead. By June 2020, things escalated when police set up secret listening devices in the foster parents' home and car out in rural NSW, running for 14 months and racking up over 1,000 hours of audio. The goal was straightforward: catch any talk about covering up what happened. Suspicion ramped up from recordings that captured conversations about fearing the loss of their kids and discrepancies in how they handled discipline, tying into a pattern of keeping family issues under wraps. One clip from July 2020 had the foster mother saying, "We have to stay quiet about those old things," which wasn't directly about William but hinted at family secrets. This linked back to prior allegations of child mistreatment from 2018 to 2019, weaving an indirect web. We dug into the details of those earlier claims, where reports from Child Services described incidents of harsh corrections, like raised voices and timeouts that stretched too long, though nothing tied straight to the disappearance at first. The foster parents fought back by suing police in March 2021 over privacy violations, claiming the surveillance amounted to bullying without clear court orders. Media coverage, like from ABC in August 2021, debated whether the audio proved any cover-up for William or just exposed separate family troubles, questioning if it crossed the line into overreach without concrete links. In November 2021, a major search kicked off at the foster grandmother's house in Kendall, with teams digging up the backyard and deck. They didn't find William, but turned up old building materials that lined up with 2014 timelines. The reasoning for suspicion pointed to William being stashed temporarily under the deck before moving it, based on indirect witness statements about an odd suitcase in the yard on the day he vanished. Supporting evidence included a prisoner count from 2021, where he claimed to have caught wind of the family talking about a suitcase holding kids' stuff that got dumped. Plus, the family car showed soil traces from the Johns River area near Kendall back in September 2014. That prisoner story came from a guy in custody who said he picked it up through the grapevine, detailing how the accident supposedly unfolded and the quick hide to dodge questions. The foster parents countered by spearheading a 141,000 AUD campaign criticizing fake suspects unrelated to them, calling the search a waste and accusing police of personal obsession. Outlets like News.com in November 2021 highlighted debates over the prisoner's credibility, noting the lack of independent verification and how it relied on hearsay without solid backing. Come June 2022, charges dropped officially. Foster parents faced counts of manslaughter, assistance, obstructing the investigation, and lying, all tied directly to the boy, with the foster mother hit extra for abusing another child. The suspicion built on those 2020-2021 recordings showing them discussing steering clear of that day, with police convinced they hid the accident to safeguard custody of the foster sister. Evidence backing it included a 2022 reanalysis of the September 12, 2014 phone call recording, spotting a 2-minute gap unexplained in their history of physical discipline from 2018 FES reports suggesting a cover-up capability for injuries. Those reports detailed specific episodes, like smacking or threats to enforce rules, painting a picture of control that could extend to hiding a tragedy. They denied everything, branding the charge as a judicial error. Coverage from Daily Mail in June 2022 fueled arguments over the indirect evidence, stressing no DNA turned up, while Jubelin backed them on radio, saying police leaped to conclusions without the basics. In March 2023, the foster mother pleaded guilty and got sentenced to 18 months in prison for abusing and intimidating an 11-year-old girl in the home, offenses spanning 2018 to 2019, with the foster father sentenced similarly for aiding. This new conviction bolstered the pattern of hidden family violence, as police connected it to potential cover-ups, like avoiding custody loss over an accident with the boy. The evidence drew from over 1,000 hours of 2020-2021 audio revealing mistreating details, including hits and threats to keep quiet, matched by medical reports on the girl's injuries aligning with strict discipline. From foster records, one recorded incident captured the foster mother yelling commands during a tantrum, escalating to physical restraint, while another showed the father standing by without intervening. She appealed immediately, arguing stress from the boy's case warped her behavior. Outlets like The Guardian in March 2023 debated if this proved anything about the disappearance or just tarnished their name, with the Foster family calling it double punishment from media glare. Follow these events. The investigation seemed straightforward at first, but it took shocking turns starting after November 2023. In November 2023, the inquest heard testimony from a prisoner at Long Bay Correctional Complex in Sydney, who claimed to have overheard the family saying it was a death, and the cause is an accident, and kept on the wooden deck, before being disposed of in a suitcase. Police followed up with checks but couldn't confirm anything yet. The suspicion lined up with the cover-up theory, especially since the family car had traveled to Johns River, the suspected dump site, shortly after the disappearance. Backing this up, the podcast witness William Tyrrell, in November 2023 revealed a recording of the foster mother discussing an old suitcase back in 2015, and chemical traces on the car from 2024 matched soil from the suspected burial area. That prisoner detailed conversations he allegedly caught in passing, describing how the accident happened on the deck and the quick decision to hide it to protect their foster status, including talk of wrapping things up in something portable like a suitcase before driving off. The foster parents dismissed the prisoner's words as mere jailhouse rumors. Coverage from ABC in 2024 questioned the reliability, pointing out the lack of physical evidence, and they accused the inquest of bias relying on outdated recordings. By March 2024, the court convicted the foster parents of intimidating aiding in the mistreatment of another child based on those 2020-2021 recordings, but dropped the charges of obstructing the investigation into the boy due to insufficient direct evidence. Suspicion lingered because the court acknowledged a pattern of concealment, though not enough for the disappearance case, with police still viewing the foster mother as the primary suspect since late 2021. Specific audio from March 2024 captured them threatening another child to keep secrets like last time, indirectly linking to the foster sister's 2014 statements about fearing her mother. One clip played in court showed the foster mother warning a child during an argument, saying things had to stay hidden or everything would fall apart, echoing earlier discipline incidents. The foster mother called the ruling a half victory, accusing police of a 3-year obsession without proof. Reports from News.com in March 2024 argued that dropping the charges weakened cover-up theory, with Jubelin commenting that the evidence had been weak from the start. In October 2024, 4 former neighbors testified at the inquest about the foster mother's odd behavior on the day of the disappearance, like running around illogically. Police confirmed they'd suspected her since late 2021. Witnesses described her as too calm afterward, suggesting she knew something in advance, matching recordings about a minor accident. Their statements included seeing a suitcase brought to the backyard that morning, with one neighbor recalling the foster mother loading something heavy into the car while glancing around nervously. Coverage from ABC in November 2024 revealed police believed she manipulated the phone call timeline. The foster parents rejected the witnesses as hostile. Posts in October 2024 covered debates over the statements coming 10 years later without verification, and they labeled it a media witch hunt. December 2024 saw the inquest cancel its final hearing day amid disputes over new evidence, with police maintaining the cover-up suspicion but admitting limited proof. The delay allowed more checks on old recordings. Reports from The Australian in December 2024 noted suspicion still centered on the foster mother due to her behavior patterns. A fresh analysis month of 2020 audio uncovered vague talk of a fateful day. Without changes, the foster parents welcomed the cancellation, seeing it as a sign of innocence. Major arguments erupted over 3 years of unfounded suspicion from ABC in December 2024, with them filing additional suits over reputation damage. By May 2025, the court overturned the foster mother's child mistreatment conviction, downgrading to no conviction due to the unique stress from the boy's case, with the foster father fully acquitted in the same way. The court recognized investigation pressure distorted behavior, though police stuck to the accident cover-up theory. No new evidence surfaced, but ABC in May 2025 referenced the 2023 suitcase recording again. The foster mother broke her silence, denying everything outright. She spoke in a rare interview about years of scrutiny breaking her down, insisting the accident never happened, and the family was shattered unfairly. She called the inquest a prolonged witch hunt. Posts in May 2025 debated how the overturn undermined police credibility, with Jubelin supporting that evidence lacked from 2022, and they accused an unfounded obsession. The suspects outside the house. Beyond the parents, we shifted our attention to other suspects and the swirling rumors of a PD ring operating in the region, piecing together how these leads unfolded over the years. To be precise, PD here refers to crimes involving children. Right after the disappearance in September 2014, Police set up Strike Force Roseanne under Gary Jubelin, zeroing in on the theory of abduction by a stranger tied to a local PD network, given the lack of physical traces and reports of about 20 registered offenders in Kendall. They questioned dozens of people with histories in that area and scrutinized two suspicious vehicles, a white wagon and an old gray sedan parked on the dead-end Benaroon Drive that morning without any clear reason. Another grayish sedan turned around in a neighbor's driveway around 9 a.m., and a 4WD sped off at 10:30 a.m., details kept under wraps for 12 months. The first suspects emerged as two men, both offenders from Kendall, who might have met that day. One had over 90 convictions, including severe assaults on minors. His family said he visited the other and came home drunk, but he claimed he was in the bush scavenging scrap. They were friends, members of the JAPA organization, grandparents as parents again, and drove cars matching the gray sedan and white wagon descriptions. Police grilled them, but they denied any connection or involvement, and got cleared after a few weeks. Rumors of a PD ring kicked off when a current affair reported on an active circle in the area, with the PD crime squad jumping in. Jubelin publicly stated in a September 15 press conference that the boy was taken by a child PD, sparking tips about a local network trading kids. By 2015, suspicion widened to Bill Spedding, a 71-year-old appliance repairman who fixed the washing machine at the foster grandmother's house weeks before the disappearance. He had a history of PD offenses in Victoria from 1983 to 1985 and faced charges seemingly to pressure a confession. Spedding posted a video denying everything, confirming he was elsewhere that morning of September 12. Police raided his home, finding kids' toys but nothing linked. He sued for malicious prosecution. One story from that raid involved officers digging up his yard after a tip about buried items, but it turned up empty, fueling his claims of harassment. Rumors of a PD ring grew as police ramped up searches for connections, questioning more offenders. The Guardian in September 2015 reported police suspecting an abduction by such a ring, but Spedding flat out denied it all, calling the ordeal a nightmare from hell. From 2016 to 2017, some suspects got ruled out while the direction shifted away from the ring idea. In July 2016, Spedding's alibi held solid and historical offense charges against him were dropped or dismissed. He pushed forward with his lawsuit against NSW police. The two PD suspects from 2014 were fully cleared after vehicle and alibi checks panned out clean. By June 2017, revealing the boy was in foster care brought 500 new tips, mostly about a PD ring. But police admitted they no longer believed the abductor was part of one since 2015, pivoting to the idea of encountering the perpetrator already. Jubelin said in 2017, it was very likely they'd met the culprit. Rumors of the ring lingered in the media, with reports of an active one on the mid-North Coast. One investigator in 2017 confirmed dozens of PD types had been questioned, but without evidence to back it up. In 2018 through 2020, the inquest brought fresh leads on Frank Abbott. A big search hit Kendall in June 2018. Sweeping areas near PD suspect homes, they found toys but nothing relevant. By March 2020, the inquest heard from Tanya, a pseudonym for a woman who said two boys she babysat were threatened by Frank Abbott, a convicted PD living near Benaroon Drive. He allegedly bragged about killing the boy and burying him in a suitcase. Abbott had convictions dating back to 1968 for child mistreatment and was accused of beastly acts. He denied it, saying he wanted to find the boy like everyone else. One chilling detail from Tanya's account involved Abbott cornering the kids in his yard, whispering threats if they talked, tying into his history of luring minors with promises. In October 2020, other testimony mentioned child screams near Abbott's house. He had died in 2016, so no direct questioning happened. Rumors of a PD ring heated up with ABC in March 2020 reporting Abbott knew something, suggesting a local network. The inquest delved into a PD web but came up short on proof. The year 2021 saw searches near Abbott's old place and lingering suspects. In November 2021, raids on his former Laurieton home near Kendall turned up kids' toys but no DNA match. They also probed an elderly couple as suspects and Paul Savage, a neighbor questioned multiple times by Jubelin, with illegal recordings involved. Savage's story included odd behavior like wandering the bush that day, but he denied everything and sued Jubelin. Rumors of the PD ring persisted, with SMH in November 2021 mentioning a local one under scrutiny. Though focus shifted inward, Savage pushed back hard, claiming the repeated interrogations ruined his life. Lawsuits and further clearances marked 2022 to 2023. In December 2022, getting $1.48 million aid for malicious prosecution, the court ruled PD charges were fabricated to force a confession on the boy. NSW lost the appeal in 2023. One courtroom highlight was Spedding describing the raid as a violation, with officers treating him like a monster without basis. By June 2023, police confirmed 90 suspects overall, including low-priority PD types. The ring theory was deemed inactive. Rumors of the ring still bubbled on Reddit and podcasts with guesses about a hidden circle, but police dismissed them outright. Shockingly, updates from 2024 to 2025 brought podcast revelations and hints from Abbott's kin. In November 2024, the witness, William Tyrrell, podcast disclosed Jeffrey, Bluey, Abbott Frank's brother, suggesting a burial spot in Johns River. Two men living in Sold House confirmed finding kids' toys but nothing tied. Bluey's tip came from a conversation where he hinted at family secrets, describing a spot by the river as worth checking without admitting involvement. In May 2025, a controversial social media post claimed a ring buying kids for high-profile figures, linking to other murder victims. Spedding called for an independent probe in November 2024, criticizing the fixation on wrong leads. In June 2025, Jubelin revealed messages from the foster mother indirectly debunking the ring theory. The 24 inquest heard prisoner testimony on a kid trading ring but lacked verification. Rumors of the PD ring echoed in November 2024, noting it was once suspected but now with little evidence. Online forums in July 2025 speculated on mistreatment plus abduction by a PD, though police zeroed in on an internal accident. In wrapping up our look at these other suspects and the persistent rumors of a PD ring, we see a pattern of inconsistency that undermines the entire probe. Police latched onto theories like abduction by a local network with haste, only to backpedal just as quickly when alibis held or evidence fizzled, leaving lives upended without apology or accountability. Figures like Spedding endured years of scrutiny and false charges, cleared but scarred, while whispers about Abbott and his circle fueled speculation without solid proof, highlighting how rushed conclusions disrespected everyone involved, from the accused to the grieving family, turning a search for truth into a cycle of doubt and damage. The updates. For the recent developments of this case, tracking every detail from August 2025 forward to see if anything has shifted this long-standing mystery, in August 2025, there were no fresh breakthroughs or official statements from police or the inquest proceedings, so our team kept a close eye on the ongoing review of old testimony from Round 5, which wrapped up back in July. The magistrate, Harriet Graham, was poring over indirect evidence pointing to a possible balcony accident, piecing together timelines and witness accounts without any new physical finds popping up. The case remained active under Strike Force Rose On, with that million AUD reward still hanging out there for any solid lead on finding the boy alive, showing no signs of it going cold. But we noted criticism bubbling from former detective Gary Jubelin in a radio interview on August 5, where he slammed the current team's lack of fresh momentum, saying they'd stalled on re-examining key elements from 2014. Jubelin appeared on the Where is William? Podcast mid-month for a special episode marking 11 years since the disappearance, where he supported Graham's scrutiny of the indirect balcony evidence, but repeated his call for a full independent review of the entire investigation from day one. He argued that families deserved real answers, not endless loops of suspicion, and subtly referenced the foster parents' overturned conviction from May as delayed justice that highlighted systemic flaws. Though he hasn't been directly involved in the inquest since his 2019 removal, Jubelin sent a letter through his lawyer to the NSW coroner, pushing to expand statements from old witnesses like Paul Savage, the neighbor who'd been questioned multiple times. This stirred some ripples, leading to over 20 new tips trickling into police lines. Though none altered the probe's pace, we saw it as Jubelin keeping the pressure on without stepping back into the fray. September 2025 brought a bit more activity through Jubelin's voice, even if no concrete discoveries surfaced. Around September 8, he sat for an interview on the Today Show on 9 Network, drawing parallels between the boy's case and the recent disappearance of Gus Lamont in South Australia from March. Jubelin praised the SA police for exploring alternatives beyond just wandering off, like human intervention or wildlife encounters, calling it a lesson straight from the Tyrrell investigation where early focus on lost in the bush theories slowed down looking at internal possibilities. He stressed how those first 48 hours define everything, critiquing initial missteps like not deploying drones over Kendall right away to capture aerial traces before weather wiped them out. This was his first TV discussion in 6 months, and during it, he shared heartbreaking messages from the foster mother about enduring 11 years of pressure, indirectly defending her and dismissing old theories about a PD ring as distractions that wasted time. The interview pulled in 500,000 views, sparking public debates on whether Jubelin's own leadership flaws or broader system issues were to blame, but it didn't spark any new legal moves from him. We observed how his comments indirectly bolstered criticism of the original probe's blind spots, like overlooking internal angles early on, though no physical evidence emerged. Just analytical insights that felt real but not directly tied to advancing the case. The status held steady, no freeze in sight, with the inning up for its final round and evidence submissions slated for November. October 2025 picked up with a potential lead that turned out hollow. Starting early in the month around October 8 when a child's Spider-Man suit, red and blue, size 3 to 4, was found tangled in bushes near the Camden Haven River in Dumbogan, about 15 to 20 kilometers from Kendall. A local resident spotted it and alerted police, prompting the homicide squad to collect it for forensic testing. This outfit looked worn-torn and muddied, matching the color scheme, but not the authentic Marvel Disney branding of the boy's original. It was a cheap knockoff with different polyester material, no DNA hits, and estimates placing it discarded 2 to 5 years ago, not lining up with 2014. Police confirmed its authenticity via October 15, but ruled it unrelated after Sydney lab results, likely from a local kid or tourist who lost it. Another resource drain echoing hundreds of false leads before. Around October 15, the foster father won his appeal, flipping his marked for intimidation conviction to a non-conviction order for 12 months, with the court citing pressure from the boy's case as distorting behavior. This wasn't a new find but a legal update, real and indirectly relevant by fueling debates on the foster parents' scrutiny without shifting the accident theory. Toward the end of the month, around October 23, police released an age-progressed image of what the boy might look like at 14. Crafted from AI and family photos, the biological mother saw it on TV and broke down in a 7 News interview, sobbing and yelling, as she clutched the screen. This composite from forensic experts was genuine, issued officially by NSW police, and highly relevant, designed to jog memories and spark international tips, yielding over 50 calls in the first 48 hours, though most unchecked yet. The case Shokyozyo's inquest nears closure with a Q1 2026 ruling expected, and police affirm they believe it's solvable, honing in on the hidden accident idea despite no body. Jubelin's actions ramped up in October's first half, reacting to the Spider-Man suit fight on October 10 in a news. I'll comment, labeling it a common false clue that wastes effort like so many prior ones, urging focus on the inquest over public tips. He highlighted the upcoming AI age image on October 23 as a smart move to potentially draw out real leads. Behind the scenes, he emailed the NSW police commissioner, though not publicized, suggesting an AI recreated scene based on his 2014 experience, but got turned down over conflict of interest concerns. This built on his push for better tech use, echoing past critiques. Mid-month around October 15, Jubelin hit ABC Radio to respond to the age-progressed photo, calling it a powerful tool akin to those in the Madeleine McCann case, hoping it'd stir old acquaintances' memories. He shared how the biological mother's TV reaction, her tears and cries, fueled the drive to keep going. Then, from October 20 to 22, in an interview tied to new Gus Lamont searches on October 14, Jubelin commended SA police for learning from Tyrrell by not assuming lost right away, suggesting they withhold some info to dodge fake AI images like those plaguing Gus tips. He emphasized how Tyrrell taught openness to interventions, whether human or animal. These were his first TV spots in 2 months, on Today's Show and 7 News, where he revealed 2024 messages from the foster mother about suitcase theories lacking proof, indirectly dismissing cover-ups. His comments spurred over 100 new tips for Tyrrell from the age image, but police noted only 5% seemed useful. Overall, Jubelin stayed in an advisory role without formal ties. Through his Catch Killers podcast episode on October 20 about Tyrrell lessons and Daily Telegraph columns on child investigation errors, he upheld no regrets over his 2017 recordings and an updated 2025 autobiography, using media to advocate for a fair inquest, supporting the foster parents, and pressing against letting the case go cold. The fails of the child protective system. Finally, let's take a step back and examine the most critical factor at the root of this tragedy, the child protection and foster care system. The system falls under the Department of Communities and Justice, formerly known as Family and Community Services, handling everything from temporary placements to long-term adoptions when biological parents can't provide a safe environment due to issues like mistreatment, neglect, or addiction. In this setup, kids get pulled in when reports flag serious risks, with social workers assessing homes and courts making final calls on custody. We see how it aims to protect, but critics argue it often prioritizes quick stability over family reunification, creating rifts that echo through cases. Early complaints highlight a social bias, favoring middle-class families with resources over blood relatives who might need support, to imputing to cultural clashes and accusations of class discrimination that leave low-income parents feeling erased from their children's lives. For instance, families from disadvantaged backgrounds report feeling judged on appearance or income rather than potential, with one review noting how this skews placements away from extended kin who could offer cultural continuity. The reasons for moving a child like this stem from court decisions after repeated reports of harm in the birth home. Back in 2012, the NSW court stripped the biological parents of custody over all their children following ongoing alerts about neglect and domestic violence that put the kids at risk. The youngest, at just 1 year old, went into temporary care, with limited visitation rights for the birth parents that they struggled to follow consistently, often missing sessions or showing up unprepared. This process unfolded quickly, with assessments focusing on immediate safety. But questions arise about whether alternatives like kinship care with grandparents got a fair look. We've dug into records showing evaluations of relatives were brief, dismissing them for similar issues in the extended family without offering rehab or support programs first. The birth parents pushed back, insisting the system targeted them for being poor and overlooked their efforts to get clean, like attending sporadic counseling. By 2013, the transfer to the foster couple known as J&T, a middle-class pair in rural NSW already caring for an older girl, got approved after initial checks praised their spacious home and steady jobs. They seemed like a solid fit on paper, providing structure and play space, but the haste in finalizing without deeper family reunification attempts raised flags, especially since the birth side felt sidelined without chances to prove change. Conflicts between the birth family and the fosters ran deep from the start, fueled by the system's decisions that pitted them against each other. The biological parents and relatives denied the severity of the mistreatment claims, viewing the removal as biased against their working-class status, while the fosters maintained silence under privacy laws, focusing on day-to-day care. Tensions escalated as visitation dwindled. The birth parents missed meetings, blaming distance and costs, but the system cut access further, leading to accusations that the fosters got preferential treatment because of their stability. We've heard stories from similar cases where birth families feel raced, like one where relatives claimed the system ignored cultural ties, pushing kids into homes that didn't match their heritage. In this instance, the birth mother spoke out years later about how the setup stole our kids twice, first by removal and then by barring contact, while the fosters dealt with their own pressures, later revealed through records of strict rules in the home that sparked separate complaints. Issues in the transfer process stand out as key points of contention, starting with the lack of thorough relative assessments before permanent placement. Guidelines require exploring kinship options, but in practice, we find cases where grandparents or aunts got dismissed quickly due to shared family history, without programs to address those barriers, like addiction support that could have kept the child with blood ties. The 1-year timeline felt rushed to some, with the birth parents arguing the system didn't give them time to improve, such as through mandated classes they started but couldn't complete due to logistics. Post-transfer monitoring fell short too. The fosters passed initial reviews with flying colors, but later incidents of harsh discipline with other kids went unnoticed for years, only surfacing in 2018-2020 reports of physical corrections and threats. This gap highlights a broader problem in frequent check-ins and reliance on self-reporting, allowing potential mistreatment to simmer undetected, as seen in the eventual charges that got overturned in 2025 amid claims of investigation stress-warping behavior. The system's lack of accountability draws the sharpest criticisms, from failing to coordinate with police early on to broader patterns of overlooking risks in foster homes. Reviews point to inadequate training for workers, leading to biased placements that favor economic stability over cultural fit, with Indigenous kids like those with Aboriginal roots facing higher removal rates and loss of heritage. We've examined reports showing how this creates long-term trauma, with kids bouncing between placements without stability. In critiques from groups advocating for child rights, the setup protects adults more than kids, as evidenced by delayed responses to complaints. Social workers might visit quarterly, but that's not enough to catch subtle signs of control or fear in the household. Former investigators have called out the bureaucracy for politicizing cases where privacy rules shield fosters but silence birth families, fueling resentment. Overall, these lapses reflect a system stretched thin, where responsibility gets diffused across agencies, leaving vulnerable children in limbo and families fractured without real recourse. We delve deeper into the heart of the conflicts that tore families apart and exposed cracks in the foster system. The biological family, including the parents and extended relatives, consistently denied the mistreatment allegations leveled against them, insisting the system targeted poor, bogan households like theirs out of prejudice. They lost visitation rights gradually because they couldn't comply with the strict schedules, which only fueled their accusations of bias. The birth mother finally broke her silence in 2023, declaring that children belong with their blood kin and that the system had raced us completely. She recounted how early visits were supervised in cold offices, with workers noting every missed appointment as proof of disinterest. Even though travel from remote areas and work demands made it impossible, relatives echoed this, sharing stories of pleading for more time to get sober or stable, only to be dismissed as unfit without real help like subsidized counseling or housing aid. This side felt villainized from the start, with the father once telling a caseworker that poverty wasn't a crime, Yet it seemed to seal their fate in court documents that painted them as irredeemable. On the other side, the foster family maintained anonymity under protective laws, but their history of strict discipline came to light through later complaints from 2018 to 2019 involving other children. Tensions spiked when the foster status went public in 2017, prompting the birth family to criticize how they got favored because they're rich. The Fosters had presented as ideal, professional Joss with a yard for play, but records later showed a rigid environment where rules were enforced with raised voices and prolonged timeouts, things that might pass in some homes, but raised red flags when scrutinized. One incident involved a child from a previous placement, describing being locked in a room for hours as punishment, though the Fosters defended it as a necessary structure for traumatized kids. The clash intensified as the birth side saw this as hypocrisy, pointing out how their own flaws got magnified while the Fosters got downplayed until mistreatment charges surfaced. The peak of this strain hit when the birth family learned about the disappearance late, sparking public arguments that played out in media and court. The biological mother wept at the 2024 inquest, saying the system robbed me of my son twice, first by taking him away, then by keeping information from her in those critical hours. She described getting a delayed call from authorities, arriving at the scene to find the Fosters already in control of the narrative, with police focusing questions on her past rather than the immediate search. Relatives joined protests outside hearings, holding signs about family rights, while the Fosters stayed silent, their lawyer arguing privacy was essential for the remaining children's safety. This divide highlighted how the system pitted one side against the other, with no neutral ground for shared grief or cooperation. Problems in the care and adoption process run deep, starting with inadequate oversight that let issues fester. The foster family passed initial evaluations as exemplary, but mistreatment of another girl, an 11-year-old, from 2018 to 2020, involving slaps and threats, only emerged years later, leading to convictions in 2023 and 2024 that got overturned in 2025 citing stress from the case. The Department of Communities and Justice failed to conduct regular unannounced checks, missing early signs like the child's fear of reporting or bruises explained away as accidents. Workers visited quarterly at best, relying on self-reports from the Fosters, who portrayed a harmonious home. One overlooked report from a school counselor in 2019 noted the girl's withdrawal, but it got filed without follow-up, allowing the pattern to continue until recordings from a separate investigation captured explicit threats like, "Keep quiet or else." Hiding information compounded these failures. The system concealed the foster status until 2017 to shield identities, but an ombudsman review in 2018 blasted this for delaying the probe and missing tips from the foster community. Case files show how privacy rules blocked sharing details with birth relatives who might have had insights, creating silos where information died. Social workers justified it as protection, but it left gaps, like not alerting extended family networks that could have provided cultural context or additional eyes on the child's well-being. Social bias weaves through the entire transfer, prioritizing economically stable homes and sidelining birth family improvements. The process favored the Fosters' setup, financial security, no criminal record, while dismissing the birth parents' attempts at rehab, viewing their poverty as insurmountable. This is a nationwide issue in Australia, with Indigenous children, including those with Aboriginal heritage like in this case, removed at higher rates, resulting in cultural loss as kids grow up disconnected from traditions, language, and kin stories. One audit revealed kinship placements get rejected 40% more for low-income relatives, even when they offer love and continuity, pushing children into stranger homes that might look perfect on paper, but hide rigid dynamics. The system's lack of accountability draws the harshest general criticisms from experts and advocates. The 2018 Ombudsman report condemned the poor coordination with police, noting how concealing foster details complicated the disappearance response. Walking Warriors Australia in 2021 highlighted child rights violations, accusing the setup of racing birth parents, without mandating improvement supports like parenting classes or addiction treatment tied to reunification goals. They shared tales of families begging for help only to be labeled failures, with one mother describing how a single failed drug test sealed permanent loss despite years of sobriety attempts. This case's impact rippled into Australian law, pushing for earlier public disclosures in missing child situations to harness community tips faster. Jubelin in 2025 criticized system errors from 2012 that snowballed into tragedy, citing national 2024 reports on high mistreatment rates in care. Over 1 in 10 foster kids face harm, often from unchecked discipline. He recounted how initial removals without robust family support plans set a domino effect, where kids enter a cycle of placements without true healing. Accountability gaps persist, with the department not tightly monitoring foster homes, allowing 2018-2020 mistreatment to surface late. The 2025 court overturn of the Foster's convictions due to system pressure, with The Guardian in 2024 arguing it protects adults over children, letting stress excuses override victim reports. Advocates point to underfunded workers juggling 30 cases each, leading to superficial visits where smiles mask fear. One former caseworker admitted in a hearing that budget cuts meant prioritizing crisis over prevention, missing subtle red flags like a child's sudden silence or aversion to home time. This diffuse responsibility across courts, agencies, and policies leaves no one fully answerable, turning protection into a patchwork that fails the most vulnerable. As we wrap up our breakdown of these systemic failures, it forces us to ask some hard questions about whether the child protection framework in MSW has truly fulfilled its role in cases like this. From what we've gathered, the setup was meant to shield kids from harm, but did it really succeed when a child ends up vanishing under its watch, with families torn apart and no closure after 11 years? We see how removals aimed at safety often breed resentment, like with the birth parents feeling erased, and the fosters slipping through cracks on monitoring. Does that count as protection, or just shifting problems? And looking at the overturned convictions in 2025, where courts cited investigation stress as a factor, has the system learned to balance scrutiny without destroying lives, or is it still prioritizing bureaucracy over real accountability? Then there's the bigger worry: will tragedies like this repeat? With reports showing Indigenous kids removed at rates 8 times higher than others, and mistreatment in care hitting 1 in 10 placements per national stats, it's not hard to imagine another case where rush transfers ignore family rehab potential, leading to similar heartbreak. We can't ignore how the 2018 Ombudsman flagged poor police coordination, yet here we are in 2025 with inquest delays. Has anything changed to prevent a replay? Or are we stuck in a loop where low-income families get labeled unfit while fosters get minimal oversight? Jubelin's 2025 critiques echo this, calling out errors from 2012 that snowballed. But without mandatory reforms like mandatory kinship evaluations or tech for better tracking, who's to say the next missing child won't spark the same debates? Finally, what changes might come? The case pushed for earlier disclosures in missing kids probes, influencing laws to harness community tips faster. But is that enough? We question if DCJ's infrequent checks will get beefed up, or if cultural bias training becomes standard to avoid erasing heritage. With Walking Warriors pushing for rights in 2021 and ongoing audits, there's hope for accountability, but until we see real shifts, like funded support for birth families or independent reviews for every placement, will the system evolve or remain a source of more pain? In the end, this case stands as a stark example of how a child's disappearance can spiral into unimaginable complexity, weaving together threads of family strife, investigative missteps, and systemic shortcomings that no one could have foreseen on that ordinary morning. What began as a routine foster visit exploded into an 11-year saga, highlighting the intricate ways a missing child probe can entangle law enforcement, courts, social services, and shattered families. We've seen leads chased and discarded, from PD ring rumors to accident cover-ups, each twist revealing how quickly assumptions derail truth-seeking. The inquest, stretching across years with rounds of testimony, underscores that child cases aren't linear. They demand patience, resources, and an openness to pivot when evidence demands it. More than anything, it spotlights the child protection system's pivotal role in prevention and response. From initial removals to ongoing monitoring, the framework is supposed to be a safety net, yet here it became part of the tangle, with delays in information sharing and oversight gaps allowing doubts to fester. Critics point to how it prioritized placement speed over family support, turning potential reunifications into permanent breaks and leaving kids vulnerable in ways no policy intended. We cannot overlook the parents' roles in this tragedy, both biological and foster. The birth parent's struggles with addiction and instability set the stage for intervention, a painful reminder that parental failures, however rooted in hardship, carry consequences for the innocent. Their denial and missed visitations fueled the divide, but so did a system that offered little bridge back. The fosters, tasked with providing stability, faced their own scrutiny for discipline methods that crossed lines, showing how even homes harbor hidden strains. Their silence under privacy laws protected the remaining children but deepened mistrust, illustrating that parenting in the foster world demands transparency and resilience amid public judgment. Every adult in this web, birth, foster, social workers, bears some weight, teaching us that child welfare thrives on accountability from all sides, not just removal. To this day, no official conclusion has. The inquest pushes toward a 2026 ruling, but the absence of a body or definitive proof keeps the doors open. That uncertainty fuels hope. Perhaps a tip from the age-progressed image, a fresh witness, or overlooked evidence will surface. Families on both sides cling to it, the biological mother weeping over the AI photo, the fosters enduring overturned convictions yet still searching in their way. This limbo reminds us miracles happen in cold cases. Kids have been found after decades. Until then, we pray for the boy, wherever he may be, that truth brings peace, justice heals wounds, and his story sparks real change so no child slips through again. May light break through the shadows.